Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Secondary Heroes podcast. We're watching Wandavision. It's the penultimate episode, episode 8, previously on. This is your host, Trevor, and joining me as usual is...
Hey, guys, it's Prague.
Did I just watch Shrek? Because this has a lot of layers. This is DeLorean Wolfgang.
And this week we have a special guest joining us.
Hey, guys, it's Meg. How are you? Also known as Mountain Meg.
How's the weather up there in the mountains?
It's great. We had snow a couple days ago, and now it's going to be 60 degrees tomorrow.
Nice.
All right. Heavy roll in Colorado.
Colorado's got weird weather, man. I tell you what.
You never
We're
know
not here to talk about weather.
We are not. We brought Meg on today because she is a huge Marvel fan, and we thought it'd be great to have her on for our penultimate episode take. Yeah.
Awesome. Very excited to be here. Thank you, guys. I've been a big fan of the whole show that you guys have done so far, so it's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Wow, thank you. She said that she was going to learn me something today, so this is exciting for me because I kind of watched the episode.
Par for the course.
No, I usually watch it twice, and I wanted to watch it before I got on today and didn't get around to do it.
You have a baby. It's okay.
I have a baby. Yeah, as Meg has 2 kids herself, or 2, 3?
I mean, 2. A 3 and 5-year-old. Yep. We got the routine down okay at this point.
Yeah. Wait, does your kids watch this with you?
No, not this one. No, they like some of the Marvel stuff.
It's a little dark for...
Yeah, no, they're at the Funko Marvel Shorts level, that they show on Disney Plus. That's about what they can handle in length as well as content. So this one's one that I watch while I'm doing my own thing in the evenings.
Very nice.
That's for the best.
Yes.
I don't know the vision, the visuals. Okay.
The vision is definitely dark in his own right, but
yeah,
we'll get there.
I'm so tired, guys. I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's gonna be
hopefully
great.
You've been watching us do WandaVision throughout. I mean, we're up to episode 8. Hopefully you don't just jump in right at episode 8. But if you do, welcome. And with that, we start with the spoiler-free portion, and then we'll go on to super duper spoilers. But before that, here's our opinions of what we thought of episode 8. Who wants to start?
Ladies and gentlemen, I'll start. So, I know that I did say that I kind of watched the episode. I did watch the episode, but usually whenever I watch these episodes, I watch them on Monday, so they're fresh in my mind. I watched this on Saturday because I was sick of all the spoilers on Twitter. So I was like, okay, I'll just watch it. And there's a lot in this. I mean, it was cool. Like, it was going somewhere that I'm like, okay, this is really neat. But man, it's so hard to censor myself. We've been doing this for 8 weeks now and trying to figure out how to say all this without spoiling anything.
Spoiling?
It's great.
Okay.
I will say I'm fully invested now. Okay. I like the show rather than my
I can
old
see that.
reviews.
Yeah.
My old reviews were like, eh. Now I'm like, ah.
I'm impressed you hung on after the first 3 episodes, actually, recalling back to the first couple of podcasts.
Yeah, me too.
We did because of these guys and this podcast.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to
Probably
be like...
mostly me, but yeah.
How about you, Prague?
I liked the episode. I think that I wasn't too sure what they were going to do this episode. I thought all of the stuff that happened this episode was going to be probably in the last episode, so it kind of hit me really early to watch it before work, and I wasn't expecting it to be that deep and emotional. So I was like, all right, well, that's great. So it's not like the fun episode. It's not there's no real action in this episode. It's more of a deep psychological dive, I would say, without spoiling too much for those who haven't yet. But I thoroughly enjoyed it from a fan of the comics and just a fan of psychology. I think it was very well written. So that's my take. It was a great episode, definitely the most different of all of them in terms of tone.
Well, I found that they're all kind of different in their own, I don't know.
Yeah, true. I think that this was the deepest, in a different direction than the rest of the series has been so far. So.
Yeah.
And Marvel too, honestly.
Yes, definitely.
Marvel.
I mean, for me, it just gave me so many pieces of information that I wanted to see. and I wanted to see brought to life in general in the Marvel universe. So I just thought it was a really clever episode to bring a lot of pieces together that we had all sort of had our questions about up to this point, right? And so I just really loved them helping give us a good groundwork for what's to come in the final episode, which I wish was going to be an hour and a half long because of all I feel like they need to do. But yeah. we will see. If it's 35 minutes, they're going to give us 35 amazing minutes too. So, but I liked this episode. It gave us a lot of in-depth detail about certain characters, and I really like episodes that do that and reflect back on a lot from before.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Well said without spoiling anything. Nice.
I know, right? I'm like, dang, that was really impressive.
I'm in marketing, I have to figure out words. That's like my job.
For me, I guess it felt kind of like Stranger Things season 2 episode 8, where we're like, what's 11 doing? Oh, here's a random episode that doesn't fit with everything else. And then they're like, oh, this is like Castle Rock season 1 episode 7, where it's like, let's do a whole backstory thing. And some shows can pull it off and some shows can't. So WandaVision is able to pull it off just because they have the pedigree of the MCU. Because Alex's biggest detractor, and a lot of people who didn't really watch Age of Ultron or aren't really into it or anything, is that they don't know who Wanda is. And so this actually gives you a backstory to say, okay, this is Wanda. It took us 7 episodes to get this backstory, and she got more screen time than she did, I think, through the entirety of 24 MCU films. But the funniest thing is this was the longest episode and still somehow went the fastest, just because there's a lot to digest and go through. My only kind of hesitance is as soon as the title came on and said previously on, because I watched it again to avoid spoilers, and I'm like, I know exactly where this entire episode is going to go. And so I wrote it at the top of my notes, and that's exactly where it went. So that was my only disappointing aspect of this episode.
All right.
Wow, that's awesome. I can't wait to hear what this note says.
All right.
But to get to that note, we got to go through our social channels. So make sure you go over to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Make sure to follow, subscribe. Again, Prague is on it.
I know. I keep undoing it.
Oh, Trevor's on it too.
I have to do it this week too.
Well, now you guys are throwing me off. I need not to look at you guys when I do the socials. That's right. So follow us, subscribe to us, hit that bell, hit the like, hit all that stuff. Make sure you go over on iTunes. I know I say this every week. Go over to iTunes and rate and review us. It kind of goes over everyone's head. I'm sure people just skip this part anyways. So let me just, okay. This is all free for you and priceless to us.
Awesome. I wish I could rate and review you guys again, by the way, because I did way back at the start, and I'm like, now it's probably buried down at the bottom. Can I undo it and then do it again? Does that count? No.
No, man. You know what? You're already entered into.
I'm like the OG. I was like number 2 back then. So.
Yeah, skip it there. That's...
I'm gonna look
nice.
While we talk about our giveaway,
right? And so you go at Secondary Heroes, and guess what? We're still giving away this, and I didn't actually introduce a deadline because I plan my giveaways out. And so the giveaway is going to end March 7th at midnight. So that's this coming Sunday after this episode airs. And actually, episode 9 of WandaVision will be out by that time. And also, since you get that Mr. Monopoly, you get our pins as well. And speaking of the pins, if you haven't gotten them yet, they're available. Just go to Twitter. It's pinned right to the top. You can all the details of how to get these pins for yourself. We get the hard enamel, soft enamel, and the Chase Silver version. And I think that's time for Spoiler Stuff.
Spoiler stuff.
Breathe. Wow, that was great.
Woo! I feel energized now. This is good.
That was a heck of a heck, man. All right, so we're previously on, and we start off with the purple logo.
Yes, the purple logo. Yes. I was like, okay, I know what we're doing. Black Panther.
We're done.
Here comes the logo. Because it was like red into purple, and then the whole logo changed, and it was brilliant. I loved it. So good.
What?
And then we went way back.
So actually, really quick, I do have a question, because we're talking about the Marvel logo, right? Coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
How long do you think it's going to be before Tony Stark and Captain America become smaller and smaller and smaller to where they're just so far in the background with the Marvel logo? Because I'm already noticing that they're just a very small. They're only in there for a little bit. when they first started doing it, it was like it was them all the time. I don't know.
I mean, I'm already forgetting about them until you mention them right now. I was like, oh, that's right. I totally forgot who those guys were. So I'm glad you mentioned them. Oh, that was nice.
Sorry, Ryan. Ooh.
I don't
Anyways,
know.
well,
There's
that
going
was
to be a lot
just-
more characters coming. So
Yeah.
I think
There certainly are.
There's a lot. So.
I mean, they still anchor the history of how this all started, so I don't think they'll ever go away completely. But I know what you mean, and it's going to be probably more of the, they might go back to like single classic images or something versus like the final stuff, and kind of go back to the most traditional element of them, right? Versus like the snap that we're getting right now, because that's still fresh. So it's a good question. It is. They have so many others to introduce.
Totally. And with something like WandaVision that's introducing a lot of new characters, it's some of the old guys are getting pushed behind a little bit. Like, I don't even remember seeing Hulk in the Marvel logo anymore. He used to be in the... He was there? Okay, maybe I just wasn't paying that.
Don't worry, his cousin will be Prime soon. Don't worry about it.
That's right.
So let's get into this episode.
Right, so we start with purple stuff, and then we go back to Salem 1693, because we have to tell the story of who Agatha Harkness is. And if the comics don't mean anything, like they're not in a world that exists, no one has any idea who Agatha Harkness actually is. And so this is fun because this kind of actually zigzags away from what the comics do, because Agatha actually flips the script, because she's actually killed in this point in the comics back in 1693.
And I thought that was going to happen. I'm like, oh my God, they're going to do it.
I thought she was only going to be in like the primordial world and somehow connect to, that whole thing. But we're like, nah, she's going to be around the whole time. And so she has the whole mom storyline, and you didn't teach me the rules. If only you would teach me, all this kind of back and forth. And then she somehow she flips the magic of everyone else and sucks
Agatha doesn't suck.
kills everybody.
I don't know. I don't know, man. This episode, it was a little hocus pocus-y to me. This
whole scene was hocus pocus.
This was straight up hocus pocus, and I was like, you know what? It was fun back in 1992. Right now,
it was funny. I was watching the scene. I'm like, oh my God, Alex is gonna hate this scene. So I knew it. I was like, yeah, Alex is gonna hate it, and I loved it. I was like, this is so great.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I love witch stuff like this. It's so much fun.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
I knew you were gonna hate it, so I was like, that's all right. I prepared myself for it. All right, so we figured it out that this was not a witch trial. What is a witch trial? Just not the type we were expecting.
Right.
They set it up nicely to look like, oh, she's gonna be burned at the stake. These are normal people, and then it's the coven. Like it was very cleverly orchestrated from the start.
Well, and it's something that is kind of fresh. It's not something that you've seen really before, of witches kind of saying, hey, you did something against our covenant, so now we're gonna kill you.
Yeah.
Rather than just normal people saying, oh, you're a witch, I'm burning you, you're dead now. So,
like, how bad do you have to be burned by your own coven? What did she do? Like, you're a witch,
clearly,
aren't you?
like, repeat offenses, there probably were times given to her to become better, and she hadn't, because they clearly
knock it off.
were not willing to listen to her anymore,
Exactly.
So.
Nice.
Wonder.
And it's also fun because a few episodes, Prog's like, I love the magic part of Marvel, and they haven't really done it at all. They haven't gone deep into how much magic is actually in the comics. And this episode goes heavy on it. We're casting spells, and we're using fun language and all through it. I'm like, Prog must love that they're putting this on screen.
We get like 4 different types of color magic here, between like blue, yellow, red, purple. It's amazing. We get most of the colors of the rainbow in this one.
Cheesy for Alex, but I enjoy it.
Oh yeah, this stuff just ruined it for me.
There's
a lot to the episode that I like, but
the
witch stuff is silly to me. I don't like witch stuff. I don't know. It's silly.
It's weird within the Marvel universe. It's a delicate balance, because if it hasn't been in there, it's kind of like when they're going to throw mutants into the MCU. It's going to be weird. It's going to be like
it's going to be weird.
Oh my God! It's not, you're used to it. But the one fun part is that Agatha has the power just flow out of her. Everyone else is casting it like, from hands and like the idea, but it just bursts straight out of her chest like, oh, I'm magic.
Surprises her almost. Yeah. Like she seemed mildly shocked by the fact that it actually was like protecting her, almost not of her own choosing.
And it's ironic what she says later on, because I don't know what happens from 1693 to 2020 or whatever, but
yeah, they don't go
she
into
literally flips the script and complains about what happens. It's hilarious. We'll get to that.
Yeah, it frames the whole episode. Like, I think we need this piece to frame the last part of this episode.
And then she does kill the mom after says, "Please, I can be good," and the mom says, "No, you cannot." Which that's great when your mom tells you that. You know you did something horrible if even your mom has given up on you.
Yep,
and she finally takes the mother's brooch, and so we get to see that brooch and the origin story of the thing that she keeps clutching after every single episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know, you can correct that with spankings.
Wow. Anyways, I think there were some pretty big details in this scene. They're going to be very important to the series.
Yep.
One of which is, she says, the power bent to my will. What was she dabbling in? Was she dabbling in the Darkhold? Was she doing these spells? Was she dealing with the devil himself? What was she doing that was so powerful that she could burst magic like that and drain people's life? Which is really nice. It helps us understand why she lived so long, and she was able to take all these people's life force that probably sustained her life for that long.
Yep.
And the other part that I found interesting was that her mother had a crown, just like the Scarlet Witch has a crown on her head. So kind of like, you're kind of thinking, okay, maybe the head of a coven, wears a crown usually. I thought that was a nice little motif.
Yeah.
There.
It's interesting that she didn't, absorb or take it in any way with her power, though. Like, she does not have the crown.
I think that she's jealous.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was interesting, that idea of like bent to my power. I mean, clearly power is the center of what she is seeking. And we see it from the very start. It's very interesting.
Yeah. All right.
So this is the Salem opening, and I have to go. So this is what I wrote on my top of notes. I was like, okay, this looks like a backstory up until what actually happens to Steel Vision's body. So that's exactly what this episode is. Spoiler alert, this is pretty much by the book episode of backstory. So let's get to it. We start with, they actually kind of flow through by having Agatha create the narrative for us rather than just going through Wanda's memory. So Agatha specifically is trying to go with Wanda through her memories to find out exactly how she created so much power to essentially create life and the world and all these different things that Agatha's seen her do firsthand, which blows her mind because she doesn't know where you've trained at, how you just came like out of the blue, because she's had her pulse kind of on magic since at least the 1600s, and she just doesn't know where Wanda's come from at all. And so we're going to go step by step through her entire life in that. It's a good plot mechanic to use magic to actually make it so it's a serviceable narrative.
Yeah.
Well, and this is
sure.
the layers that I was talking about in the intro, because I feel like we really went down some heavy duty layers throughout this whole episode with Wanda.
Mm-hmm. And
For sure.
Agatha has some good fun, or at least comedic timing, even though this is a relatively dark episode. Like, she first off says that your magic's no good here, but then she actually pointed out how her accent comes and goes, because Elizabeth Olsen specifically changes her accent in every single part of, like, every few minutes it's going to be different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Agatha in general
it's good
gets
to be
poke
able to
fun.
get the backstory as to why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't want to deviate too far from the episode or anything, but I am curious. What are you guys' thoughts on? Because Agatha is going to be she's a big part of this whole story. She's a big part of the whole show, and she's played by a comedian. What do you guys think about all these comedians now playing bad guys in these movies? Because look at Wonder Woman had Kristen Wiig as the enemy there. We had, comedians are showing up all over the place now playing these characters. It's just, I don't know. To me, it's a little weird because I look at Agatha as this funny, she's a funny character. She's always got a smile on, and now she's flipped her script a little bit, and now she's evil. And I don't know how you guys take that. Like, does it sit well with you guys, or can you look past that?
It depends on the actor and the character. I think a villain can definitely be comedic, so it makes sense. And I also think that there's different actors can handle it better, I think, maybe. I also don't think that she's necessarily going to be the main villain. I think that this is more of a mentorship thing. Yeah, there is. She's not out to like kill everybody all the time for no reason at all or something, you know. She's doing this for a reason. She's trying to get information out of Wanda. So
to get
I'm fine
more
with it.
powerful, to become a more powerful witch at the end of it all, but
something, or to achieve a different goal that we'll talk about later. Yes.
Yes.
But I do think her darkly comedic moments through the episode, and frankly through the series, I mean, she's so classically good in every episode when we're in these different time periods. Like I think nails every, next door neighbor trope in every episode. So I think you needed somebody to play that character from the start, but who also has this ability to twist and become kind of crazy, like
almost maniacally
see it in
dark,
her eyes, right?
Mm-hmm.
But she also, even in this episode, adds those comedic moments to these very dark scenes. So I love what they've done with her character here, because I can't think of too many people who could play that as well as like Catherine Hahn has, in my opinion, for her specifically.
Yeah. I feel like Kristen Wiig did a good job with Wonder Woman. I don't think Kristen Wiig could have been a good villain in this. I think that Catherine Hahn. Hahn?
Yep.
Hahn. I think that
I do the same thing.
She fits perfectly, and I really like her as Agatha Harkness. So yeah,
Yep.
I'm sorry to deviate from the story a bit. I just was curious what you guys' thoughts were.
Right, and so this kind of establishes her motives for, like, this is the exposition of, why am I doing this, Wanda? After last episode, you're like, who's Agatha Harkness? She's like, let me explain, because it's not just a little jingle that is tuned to the Munsters song. There's actually reasons for the reason or the things that I'm doing. And so this kind of goes over basic magic. Come on, Wanda. I'm using runes. My thoughts were never available to you. How do you not know these basic things of magic? How did you do all of this and not know basic, like, rudimentary magical things?
Yeah,
like, she's mad. She's like, what the heck?
Well, the phrase I wrote down is
So
magic
mad.
on autopilot, like that she does not understand how you don't put like years. I mean, she's been doing this for 300 years, like 300 plus.
She's like, oh my God.
She's like, how does this just manifest out of you? Like, I truly cannot understand how you do this on autopilot, because it's more power than I've ever seen before. So it's just like she cannot comprehend. She needs to get to the bottom of it. And
she's
sets
throwing
up
all
the rest.
these different spells around too, because this is where she grabs the fly just to throw it around and then turn it into a bird, and then it goes back into eaten by the bunny, and she's just showing like all these basic magic things, and Wanda's completely powerless. And so this is where she starts getting angry, and all I could think of, this is like Frank Grimes from The Simpsons, where he's going and complaining to Homer. You do all these things, but you have a beautiful wife, you have 3 kids, you have this awesome job, this 2-story house. How did you do it? And Frank's had a horrible life. And that's what Agatha's doing. She's like, I've done all these things for hundreds of years, and I can't pull it off. And it just comes so easy to you.
Oh, that's great. It's like Benjamin Linus.
It is like Benjamin Linus, too.
Oh, my God. What about you? Oh, fantastic. Good parallel. Yeah, that's what it is. That really is what it is. And what's really cool, too, is one of the ruins above her head throughout the entire scene is the M logo. Yep. Which I think was interesting. The whole House of M nod. I liked that.
It was one it was the first one they focused on in that bright purple color. That was definitely a nod to House of M.
That was fun.
The one also fun part is that she said, I got closest of figuring out what you did with fake Pietro, or Pietro, if you will. I love Pietro now. I don't even care.
Love Pietro.
It's like Paul McCartney. Do you guys remember that? Everyone thought when Paul McCartney had the car accident that somebody else actually replaced him, and they called him Paul.
Paul McCartney, of course. Yes.
Oh my God.
Pietro.
Oh, so good.
I know.
Pietro.
I'm so out of the loop, man.
It's okay.
Thank you.
But yeah, what's nice about her showing the different spells too is it's showing her how she did everything, It's, the way that she was able to manifest different things, which makes me wonder, what did she do with the kids? Like, we had talked previously about the animals on the show. Like, they kept showing the tiger. I think I saw a polar bear that one episode, and what did she maybe take animals and like transfigure them into the boys? I'm not too sure. It's the only thing I can think of is why they focus on the animals so much, and she did mention transfiguration. Something to think about.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a nut to go. There's a lot to answer the next episode.
Now they don't touch on animals and stuff like that in the comics at all.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Yeah, not the ones they've been showing. Yeah.
Okay, so this
Yeah,
is
it's
a
very
MCU
strange.
thing. Okay.
Yeah, or they'll tie it in somehow, some way. I don't know.
Yeah, see, and that's where I'm like, episode 9's gonna be, it's got to be just totally outlandish. Like you're right, Meg. It's gonna
bonkers.
be
Yeah, I don't
just
know.
nonstop.
I just don't know
from
how they do everything.
minute
Yeah.
1 to the very end. It's gonna be just
Right.
insane. So much going on.
Yeah.
Or not, or maybe they may keep it simple, do a simple thing, and do one thing that kind of expands out to allow other movies to explain it instead. It's
And
like, okay,
disappoint
here's the
people,
trigger event. We'll see. Well, let's
Yeah.
continue on with the episode.
Yep.
We're derailing.
And so now we're getting into that psychological point that Prague talked about, that we really haven't dived into psychosis with the MCU. And so just the line that, Wanda, you've been crippled by your own self-doubt, and you rather fall apart than face your truth. And so that is like the epitome of, Wanda's done this multiple times through the decades in the comics. She literally messes up all kinds of stuff all the time.
That's her thing. Yeah.
And so now we finally get to see it on film, and it's just over and over again emphasized as, now it's time to look at some real reruns. So that's a fun line because it's a nod to kind of breaking the fourth wall, more than actually breaking the fourth wall episode did, but that's besides the point. So now we get into the fun stuff of going through all the ways that Wanda's kind of led to today. And so before we do that, she did say this, she says no right before we get going, and she's like, did you forget I have your children? And so that just ended any kind of Wanda trying to do whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Sorry, Toots. Not this time. So yes, we're going through the door with the 9 circles.
Yes.
The 9 levels of
Circles
hell,
of
which
hell.
is fun.
I noticed that too.
Yeah,
I was like,
let's
there's
go
the big
deep.
one, and then the 8. I was like, that is.
Oh yeah. There's a
that's
lot of
crazy.
devil imagery in this scene. My goodness.
Yes. Yeah.
I should not have
Anyways.
watched this while I was falling asleep. I should have been
No.
wide awake while watching this, because I looked. All I saw was a purple door go like Beetlejuice. It was like
What did that
Beetlejuice.
show?
Yeah.
Well, I like the hair too, and like the tie to Doctor Strange and Thor. Like they, there's just a lot of amazing parallels that they built into this episode. Like I know we talked at the start about folks who haven't seen Age of Ultron, for instance, being able to kind of understand Wanda's backstory here. But for those who have and are big fans, you still get stuff out of it, which is the best part. Like you're not just like, oh, this is a recap of everything I've already seen. There's so much new stuff still, and understanding.
It's a difficult, delicate balancing act, and they pulled it off to hit people who are like super big fans and people who have no idea who Wanda even is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they bridged that gap pretty well here. And this is one of my favorite lines coming up, is when they visit this scene, which is like, it's interesting to go into so much of her tragic past and have a lot of humor in these scenes too. Really, it helps. I always say that whenever you have tragedy and comedy side by side, they really can complement each other in the hands of a good writer and director. And I think this episode did that pretty well.
Agreed.
Agreed. Dark humor's the best.
It is, man.
And so now we have movie night with guns outside, and so Wanda gets to pick what they're going to watch, and we get to open up and we see all the different things. There's Bewitched and Dick Van Dyke Show and even Malcolm in the Middle, even though I don't know how Malcolm in the Middle is on DVD and
it's at least 3 years off.
Whatever, like how old is Wanda supposed to be? And he's
Yeah,
got
we're
some
gonna ignore
bootleg
that.
version
Ignore it for
and
now.
Sokovia.
It's just a good plot device. It's not really real in timing.
My guess is they really wanted to do Malcolm in the Middle as one of the episodes, and they're just like, we'll
make it work.
Let's do it. Who cares?
Yep.
Why wasn't Modern Family on DVD if Malcolm in the Middle is? Just throw it in.
Okay, yeah. Now I'm tracking. Sorry, I totally forgot about this whole part. So
It's her little.
It's when she's a little kid with her parents, and they're like all packing to get ready to go because they're leaving to, I believe, America. They were like, okay, we're getting out of this country.
And we're gonna learn English.
And we're learning English through watching these old Dick Van Dyke and stuff like that. Dick Van Dyke again!
Loud. That was the best thing. She's so loud. We're literally.
I know. Right. See, that's where you need like the comedic timing. You need someone like Catherine Hahn to play that role, because it just doesn't work without that.
That was fun.
But this scene, I remember while I was laying in bed watching it, and the explosion happens.
Yeah.
My eyes.
Very sudden.
Boom! Huge. That was the most uneasy feeling because that could almost happen anywhere USA, anywhere in the world. It can happen anywhere. And it's crazy that people
happens all the time, too.
it happens all the time that people actually go through that type of stuff. Like, that's terrifying to think about.
Yeah. It is. It was very violent. Like the way that it was shot, the way that it was juxtaposed against these like smiling, happy faces watching this shenanigans. The shenanigans on TV are very contrasting.
And it makes sense why she created a world of sitcoms specifically instead of anything else. It's like that was literally the happiest she's ever been. It was the moment her whole world fell apart. So it made sense for them for her to do that.
And it always ends okay in the end.
Well,
it's not okay. It's not the end.
Exactly. So while they're sitting in the rubble, the TV is on, and while that TV is still running Dick Van Dyke, she already knows the episode, and she's like, once it's over, everything's gonna be okay. This is gonna be okay. We're gonna be okay.
Because it was all just a dream.
Wow.
Nightmare twice. Nightmare twice. Did you catch before all that, though? Of course, there was the traditional Sokovian greeting.
The Sokovian
her mom
greeting.
hid her eyes to pretend like she wasn't going to see where the Dick Van Dyke episodes were. I just thought that was clever. Because do you remember in the first episode, I know you didn't love him, Alex, but in the first episode, when she surprises she thinks
this guest is leaving your home.
And then her mom covers her eyes in this episode, and I just thought that was just a little highlight.
Oh, I never even. Thank you for being.
I love little moments like that of continuity. Everything means something. It's like amazing. It's just amazing.
Is fantastic at callbacks. Like they do callbacks better than almost any other franchise, in my opinion.
It's true.
It's really well. It's meaningful too. It's fun. Oh, but I had to reference this episode of Dick Van Dyke. I said she called that out for a specific reason. So I had to look up what the episode was and why
Season
it was.
2, episode 23. Yeah.
21.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that episode was important because it was the episode where it was just a dream. It was okay. We're all just dreaming. And it was also about these UFOs that were causing mischief. And it was like a Twilight Zone episode. And that's why she kept hearing all those UFO sounds I'd mentioned last time. It's all the UFO references. My husband, and the flying saucer thing. Yeah. So I was like, why are they doing this? I'm like, are the Skrulls going to come down from outer space? Like, no, it was just a reference to that episode that she loved.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, I get it now. I like it. Deep cut.
Well, now that makes me think all those scrolls that you talked about last week. I mean, is that still even a thing anymore? Or
red herring?
Secret Invasion is coming. So yes, I think that's.
Wait for episode 9.
Or 10, the rumored 10th episode.
What?
Yep.
Can't do that.
Anyways, let's continue on. Sorry, we're derailing this line.
We're only on the first flashback. It's great.
Exactly. All right, what's next, Trevor? Sorry about that.
Well, so the explosion happens. It's super jarring, and then we see the Stark Industry bomb and the flashing light, just like the commercial from the first episode. And this is where she kind of says, so this is where you use probability hexes, where you said everything's going to be okay, and it was a rudimentary idea where you weren't fully aware of what you were doing, but it actually kept you guys alive for 2 days. At first, you didn't blow up and die, and then somehow you were alive for 2 days, and you were able to live. There's got to be some kind of magic at work, Wanda, right?
She's like, I don't remember anything, and she gives the whole sign.
Well, we see her starting to make the gesture when she's pulled out, so you don't get the full completion of what happened.
Right? She was doing the whole Magneto thing in the very first X-Men movie, where he was, reaching for the gate and he was pulling the gate towards him. I like that.
Oh, yeah, that's a great scene.
Yeah, it is.
Mm-hmm. And when that scene happened, I was like, oh my gosh, she's had powers the whole time. Like, and then I started making like the mutants connection possibly. But we'll continue with the episode.
And like, are her parents her actual parents, like her birth parents?
Right.
Or not?
What?
There's so many layers.
Layers. All right. All right. What's next?
So now we go to, where'd you get the big guns, Wanda? So now the Hydra door opens, and this is where she kind of jokes about her being joined. So your solution after being blown up was to be radicalized and join a terrorist group to literally blow other people up. That was your solution to it. That's funny, even though it's terribly dark and accurate.
Yeah. Well, that's Agnes's whole purpose here. Agatha, I should say, is to kind of point out these weird moments, right? And to add a little bit of that strange dark humor to each of these transitions. I think she executes that well.
She really does.
So now we go into the Hydra door, and so now if you have seen Age of Ultron or really any of the MCU movies, you understand what's going to happen in the Hydra door. Because this is, again, Prog's mentioning mutant ideas, and there's the whole idea of being mutants and what Scarlet Witch ties into that. But for the MCU, as far as we know, she got her powers via the Mind Stone. And so they have Loki's scepter, they're experimenting on her, and she goes face to face with the scepter. It shatters, the actual Mind Stone comes up, they go face to face, and then they have that really neat pupil figure, like the reflection on a figure flashed into her eyes. That was a great shot.
Beautifully shot.
So whenever the stone broke apart and turned in it made like a face while it was floating there. Was that the face of Vision?
No. So that was the face of the Scarlet Witch from the comics. So if you've read the comics, it's that classic, the crown tiara that she wears in the comics. The
sort of full pose and everything.
So the assumption is that obviously, yes, the Mind Stone didn't necessarily give her powers, but maybe boosted her powers, and what she was seeing was like her full potential as the Scarlet Witch, possibly even a different dimension calling out to her, saying you are the Scarlet Witch, a Nexus being. It could mean a lot of different things. So it's a very cool moment, but it also begs the question: are there people now that have this dormant gene that can be awakened by this Mind Stone power? Like that she has in her that she keeps bursting out, as part of her abilities. So
we're gonna,
is she reading?
Yeah, they're changing the way people are mutated.
Yes.
Yes, but it's still
no longer children of the atom anymore, is my guess.
So we'll see. Because the traditional X-Men line is all about evolution, but you can extract that and do whatever you want because you literally create the MCU. It's comics. You can create whatever story you want to.
Yeah.
Con it, why not? Different dimension, different rules, or who knows what they're gonna do with this.
So
I freaked out. I freaked out when I saw that. I yelled. So it was like 6 a.m. I'm sure I woke people up.
Yes.
So
I
that's interesting then.
As well.
by all this happening, and now through, like we talked about in previous episodes with the Hex, where the Hex grew and people, or Rhodes, not Rhodes, is it Rhodes? Monica got powers off of it. Is she getting her powers from the Mind Stone through her making the Hex? I'm just kind of like, I don't know. Because now you're saying, the
Alex,
Mind
you're
Stone
on the right
can
track.
boost it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well,
essentially, what Prague is saying that the Mind Stone made Scarlet Witch's powers enhanced, and so when we see later on is that we actually see what she can do with the Mind Stone and creating stuff. Like this kind of builds the idea where she gets a power, and now she can expand it using the Mind Stone's enhancements. It's almost like a beacon or like a satellite that enhances her broadcasting waves.
I like that.
It's a good way to put it.
Yeah, excellent.
And what's interesting too in this scene is that the footage is edited again, just like she does in the show, right?
Oh, I thought it was just that the Mind Stone couldn't be captured on film or something. I didn't know she purposely edited it.
It's clearly
I don't
it looks
know.
cut
I was wondering
in the same way.
Oh
yeah,
it
see
does
them
look
watching
cut.
it happen.
Because she's standing there,
cut.
and then it's cut
and
to
then
where
she's just on the floor. Yeah.
So
I didn't know if it was cut. I thought it was just the flash messed with the camera.
It could be, but my guess was that whatever was happening in a different dimension, and they weren't able to capture that dimension in their dimension on film. That's my only guess. Is that however she interacts with that in that moment with the Mind Stone, it just couldn't be caught on film. That's my only guess there. You could be right too. It could just be that the Mind Stone can't be captured on film. I don't know. It was weird.
Speaking of dimensions, though, as soon as I saw Loki's scepter, it reminded me they're making a Loki TV show. And the last we saw Loki, he's using the Space Stone to travel through portals and stuff. That show is going to be really fun with the potential to piggyback off of WandaVision, because once Loki starts messing with things, he could essentially retcon everything we've seen in the MCU. He for sure could act like everything in WandaVision didn't actually happen. He could go back to that moment in time, almost pretty much, and Wanda never is enhanced by the Mind Stone, and this show never happens. Loki can do anything. That's all I was thinking about as soon as I saw Loki's scepter.
Yeah.
Wow. That could happen. Hopefully not. Yes, I guess that could happen. Yes.
Okay, so this scene where they bring her in and she touches the stone, or the stone blows up or
Stone,
whatever.
like, comes
Is
to
this
her. Yeah.
is this like an experimental area where they're bringing in just random people and just seeing what happens whenever they touch it or something, and she just so happened to be the first person to not
They
explode?
had no idea.
Okay.
Yeah. Everyone's died up to this
they
point.
know.
Okay.
So it's
They don't
purely
really care if people do
experimentation.
die.
Yeah. Yep.
And they're volunteers, Alex.
Oh yeah, the
Yes.
volunteers. That's right.
You have
I'm
to clearly
sorry.
state
I'm
that
sorry.
at the start.
Yes. And she goes,
That was fun.
what? All I gotta do is touch this? Yeah.
It's all
Okay.
easy.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
All
it's
right.
interesting though. It brings up. I mean, I was thinking, how did Pietro survive this as well, right? I mean, it was interesting too, because you see them at the end of Age of Ultron, both with potential enhancements. We don't know how quick he was beforehand or anything else, but I mean, obviously they both have survived this particular experiment, so it leads to a lot more questions for me about how that,
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Did she help like protect him? Maybe
Yeah,
one after
almost
her?
subconsciously, even potentially. Yeah. Fascinating.
Anyways, next scene. Yeah. And then
So
we get the
now-
jail scene where she's like stuck, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
She's in
Yeah. Okay.
isolation or whatever,
That's right.
watching
We
the Brady
see
Bunch.
Kitty Carryall, which we saw with Vision changing the diaper in that episode, which
Yep.
I knew that looked familiar. I was like, why does that look so familiar? I'm like,
Yep.
oh, that's right. It's from Brady Bunch.
Yeah, very
I watched a lot
clearly
of
the same
Brady Bunch.
doll.
Yeah. So that was fun. A fun little nod to that as well. Starting to get everything. It's starting to come together.
Yeah, so broken pieces of you are adding up, but I need more. And so now we go to the Avengers campus. And so this is where she's living with Vision. And so, again, this entire show hasn't really given us much about Wanda and Vision's relationship. And, from an
True.
outside perspective, how does someone fall in love with a synthezoid? And this kind of dabbles at it. Like, they're not going to they could have spent more time, honestly, on their relationship, and they could have done more. But this is kind of the crux of it, that this is when she's grieving Pietro's loss, and she's having a really tough time of it. And Vision doesn't really judge her for it, and he kind of tries to explain it away from a naive perspective because he's not fully aware of human emotion. And so she kind of levels with him on that kind of idea of grieving, and he says, well, isn't grief just the ultimate version of love because it lives past the person's passing?
Yeah, it's a great line, great scene, and I think that this is what I was talking about when I thought it was really well written from like a psychologist point of view, where the person talking to you isn't like going, I know exactly what you're going through. Here, let me talk to me. Like that never works. Those kinds of situations. He was just telling you how it was. Like, hey, I don't know what you're going through, but I'm here for you if you need me. And then he says his whole line about love persevering, which I think really helped her. She's like, okay, that kind of reshaped her idea of what grief could be, I think. And then they were able to enjoy that episode together and laugh together, and it was really cute.
Yeah. And I like the nod to him coming through. That's kind of maybe the original time he phased through the door. And there's that callback to, we talked about this in future scenes in the MCU. Just a nice,
that's
so
what,
good
that's
at
what that
callbacks.
was. Yeah,
Like,
that's what she meant.
And the design of the room was spot on. And them talking about Malcolm in the Middle is really interesting because, he was like, the grievous injury, is this what's humorous? And she's like, no, it's not that kind of show. Like, we all know he's fine, right? Like, it's not that kind of show. And so she's creating not that kind of show, in a space where everything always ends up okay.
Yep. That was the best quote from that whole scene. It's not that kind of show.
Very clever. Yeah. It's just very good. And I love how
I
he
did
laughs
laugh
at the end.
when the pergola totally broke down after he flips
of
that.
course.
I don't know what
It's a great
episode that's
scene.
from, but that's hilarious.
Great scene.
I want to say that might even be the pilot or one of the first episodes.
It's definitely early. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, great.
Yep.
So anytime he gets
he
injured on that show, it's fantastic.
And then Vision gets the humor at the end of that scene, which is so funny. He just starts laughing at the moment on screen, and then you can kind of see the moment they fall in love right then. Like, it's just, you watch him watching her, and with he just gets this little hint of a smile at the end as they go back to watching. It's just really well done. Maybe my favorite scene of the episode. It's just so good.
But then she gets whipped back to reality by Agatha.
Right.
Back to reality.
To recap, parents dead, brother dead, Vision dead, and now Vision's not able to pull you back. So it's starting to make sense. You're hyperactive by the Mind Stone. You have this ultimate super grief. I'm getting it. It's starting to pull together. Because again, she doesn't have necessarily nefarious, villainous purposes. She's really, Wanda, what is going on? I need to use your capabilities to do something, but I need to know how you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah, it's very important that she says that way.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm sorry, I don't know if it was this scene or the last scene where Agatha says, "Oh, so you were in hands." She says something about the Mind Stone. She goes, you were in touch with an Infinity Stone." How?
Right. That was.
How? Yeah, but I mean, how? The knowledge of Infinity Stones, is that common?
Alex, it's definitely not. I know what you're saying. If you're like a magical being who's been alive for 400 years, I have an idea that you would know what Infinity Stones are, but that her magic is very earthbound, so
right. Well,
Infinity Stones are galactic. Yeah,
it's
like a universe thing.
Yeah, you just said that it came from Loki's staff. The fact that Loki's staff is from Asgard, which is billions of light years away. I mean, how can anybody really know what an Infinity Stone is on Earth? That's just what I'm kind of reeling
It's
on
the same way Darcy watched Infinity War and watched Thanos rewind time and pull the Mind Stone out of Vision.
See, the problem with me is that I've been reading so many comics for so many years that like I'm just used to that in comics. I'm just like, it happens all the time. There's inconsistencies everywhere. You just live with it. It's like she's almost like a supreme being at this point. I get that she's been around so long. She probably knows about it. She's done research. I'm sure she knows about it.
Yeah.
Research? Who's writing about it?
Who knows?
That's fair.
You never know. It's one of those things that like the more you think about it, the more silly it gets, and that's the whole point of comic books. Are supposed to be silly. Like you don't want to dig that deep. It's like it's kind of pointless at that point.
I saw
like,
a hole.
Then you just go ahead and
read
read
to climb through it.
Oh boy.
We're dealing with magic, Alex.
That's right. I forgot. It's all a bunch of hocus pocus.
Wiggly woos. Yes.
Exactly.
And so now we get to the point we've been waiting the whole time. The sword door appears, and so now Wanda wants Vision back. And so we've seen the doctored film of Wanda storming the sword facilities and throwing people away and grabbing Vision's body by force. You know, that Hayward's trying to convince the whole crew that that's what actually happened. So now we actually get to see what happens, and they let her through. She like uses magic to unlock the lock, but they've already given her, you know, speeding up. And so she walks through really kindly, and then she talks to Hayward, and she's obviously grieving and sad, but it's not like, oh, I'm going to like throw you aside or throw all these guards aside and just take Vision's body together. And so we finally actually get to see what they're doing with Vision. And it's straight out of the comics where he's all in pieces. It's not his dead body with the Mind Stone ripped out of it. He's all his wires are all spread over multiple different tables, and that's what truly does get to her.
Yeah. Well, and this is 5 years later. So they just picked this point 5 years later to finally start taking his body apart very roughly and very like injuriously, if you can injure vibranium.
Almost like it's it's on purpose.
Yeah, crazy. And he, much like Agatha has in previous episodes, seeds some interesting ideas about bringing him back online. I mean, back to life.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, amazing. What I meant to say was...
Well, I just found that so interesting.
So with all the components and everything that you see with Vision, I mean, that could have taken I know that we're all saying that it was most likely haphazardly taking him apart, but I mean, and this was crazy. I thought this was really beautifully done. As horrendous as it was still very beautifully done, because you can see how many components are coming out of each limb and whatnot. I'm sure that wasn't haphazardly, okay, cut, move. I mean, they probably were very detailed with what they were doing, because if they're wanting to create something exactly the same, they're most likely spending years and years getting each component correct. So maybe she just so happens to come in when he is at this state.
Yes,
I know that
I do think that
yeah.
I do think that you're right. I think that he had been pulling it apart and messing around with it, but I think that this was all staged. I think he said, she's on her way. Set this up, make it look like hodgepodgey and horrific. You know, spread him out across the room, grab some drills, and just start drilling on him all, horrifically. It was all meant to provoke emotion out of her. I mean, he wanted her to power him up.
And I think, Alex, like you were saying, I think it is specifically because he had tried so many times and he had never been able to find a way.
Whoever has this is going to have the power.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that was interesting, and Prague, I'm sure you caught this as well, and maybe all three of you did, but the hexagon shapes in his arm too. I stopped and zoomed in on that part because I was like, is that you see hexagons everywhere once you start looking for them in the show, but inside of his arm, when they're pulling apart, when you get that really sinewy kind of metal tissue coming apart, there's like a whole
mesh
little
overlay.
Mesh. Yeah. So there's just one other spot to see it. Well, and one of the things, the interesting piece that sets this up is she bursts through the door to go to Sword as, herself with Agatha. This is when you see her flip from very hesitantly being in these scenes of pain and remembering to being actively involved and actually wanting to figure out what happened. And I thought that was an interesting moment for the current time Wanda to be like, okay, fine. I don't even care that you're trying to manipulate me. I want to know if I took Vision's body or not. I truly don't remember. All I remember is pain.
True.
So that was an interesting moment to see her. It was almost, she just blasted through the door. Even before she physically blasted through the door in her memory, she ran through that door to find out what happened. So she was
she's like, I'm getting it now.
Yeah. So
her therapist is working. Very nice.
Yep.
Shout back at that. All right, so she didn't take the body, and then Hayward lied because he's a jerk.
Well, it wasn't so much that she didn't take the body. She looked down at his broken head, and she said something.
She says,
like,
"I can't feel you.
I can't feel you."
Yeah.
I felt
she tries a few times with the red hand over. Yeah.
That was awful. I mean, it was wonderfully awful. It was just so well done. Again, with the recall back to "I only feel you." It's just, it was heartbreaking.
Yeah,
and I think it helps solidify it for her that he really is gone. I can move on now. I got my chance to see him. I'll leave you be. Okay.
Yeah. There's nothing I can do.
Yep. And also I can't do that. She asked to let her bury him. That's just it, Wanda. He's not yours. That's fun too. That's just a nice
guy. That guy.
I'm not gonna let you take $8 billion worth of metal and put it in the ground.
Yep. I just want to punch him in the face every time we see him. And he's director Hayward here, not acting director Hayward, too. That seemed to be a way to soften the blow for Monica Rambeau, but he thinks of himself as the director forever. That jerk. The lying liar. I like how much they're making us dislike him, though. It's, again, he's not the real villain probably either. It's just an interesting. You have all these sub-villains.
He knows more than everyone else, which is weird to me. He knows that she had a nickname. How? And then he also knows that she can bring him back to life. How?
Sure.
He knows something. There's a lot more to discover about him, I think.
It's interesting. Yeah, he's going to be a bad guy down the road.
Yeah, for sure. I think they're setting him up to be some kind of big bad over different films, possibly.
Yeah.
I still like the Sentinel idea. Somebody has to oversee the creation of those.
So,
it has to be a prick like that.
Yes.
It's interesting with a show like that. Well, I just wanted to say that it's interesting with this type of show that it took so long to get to meeting all of our villains. I mean, you guys are still saying there's still more villains to come, and we've only got one episode left of this whole show. You know what I mean? Like, every episode is almost kind of like a little new villain pops up. I mean, starting at like maybe episode 6 or 7.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's because they really wanted to focus more on Wanda. This is like Wanda's story, not necessarily a villain's story, if that makes sense. Like, that's why.
Right.
Yeah.
And to Prog's point, I think they're unraveling phase 4. Like, we're just
That
sending
too.
out all the different threads right now. This is like all the threads are exploding out of Wanda, and we don't know where they're going to end up.
It's true. It's the opening of the story, not the closing. They're not going to solve everything for us
That's
by any long shot.
Right. And I mean, I'm not expecting them to, wrap everything up like every sitcom does, but I don't know. I'm digging where it's going, so cool.
All right, so now she gets into a car and drives.
Well, so now I thought they weren't going to have a commercial, and they decided to put a Buick commercial right in this entire episode. So this Buick is brand new. It's red. They go through movie backlots. This looked just like a Buick commercial. I was surprised she didn't ask Alexa and tell me that Alexa's built into Buicks. But she gets finally to the thing, and she checks the back seat. Or the back seat kind of is revealed afterwards. So this is the point where she goes into Westview. It's a town completely in disrepair. It's all like kind of abandoned. There's all these poor things. And she goes to this one empty lot. And we realize that the reason she goes to this empty lot is because there's a map in the Buick that she got into with a letter that says to Groldolden, V. And who left the letter? This was the only question I had after this episode was over.
When did she do this? How, or when did he do this? In theory, how? Like, when was
Didn't
this
she
all?
drive there in this Buick? This wasn't like a rental car or Buick that she just picked up, right? She drove here in this car.
Right.
Yeah. My assumption was it was in the car.
It wasn't in the back seat,
and it somehow
now it's in
got
the
to
back
her.
seat.
It wasn't there before.
Are you talking about, Trevor?
I thought it was
She
just
looked
in
at
the
it
car.
when she just got in the
came
car.
back.
Yeah, she got in the car, looks at it.
Like,
and
she knew it was
drives off.
there. She was just like, okay, now I've seen his
No,
body.
I
now I'm
mean,
gonna go.
before she goes into Get Vision, like she drove to Sword headquarters. Like once she comes, that's what I'm talking about. Like while she was in Sword headquarters, somebody left the letter in her car, right? When she
I
goes
just assumed it was in there.
That we don't know. I thought
Yeah.
she knew about it. I thought she looked over and was like, okay, I guess now I'm gonna head to our home that we're supposed to have.
That's
I
what
thought
I
there was
just
some
thought
like
of it,
intrigue about somebody leaving the letter. She's had this letter for all these 9 days that
I
she's
would
been
have thought
back.
so. I even sort of
Yeah, I
assumed
think
she
so.
was going to take his body and maybe bury him at the
Yeah.
plot or something.
Exactly. Yeah, it's pretty on the nose there. Yeah.
That's not fun at all. That's not mystery
Right.
or intrigue. It's
We
all,
don't know
yeah,
for sure.
I wanted
We
this
don't know for
episode
sure.
Yeah,
to
we
not
don't
be by
know.
the book somewhere. Jeez, it's always by the book. It's always what you think.
It is.
It's supposed to be
Okay with
twisty
that.
and turny and all these things, and they're all red herrings. It's exactly what they set out from the start.
It is.
Do you guys know what's on every New York State license plate as well?
Oh, Excelsior.
Excelsior.
Yes, I
And
learned
we
that
do
a long
get-
time ago. I
We
forget
do
what.
get a shot of the Excelsior plate as she parks,
That's-
which I thought was a very clever way of intentionally, unintentionally adding a little nod to our friend Stan.
Stan Lee cameo in the episode. That was cute.
Who?
Stan.
Some guy.
Sorry,
Salt,
I'm just
pepper,
kidding.
hair,
I'm just
glasses.
kidding.
I have him around
So
here somewhere.
what's interesting before she even gets to the house is as she's driving through town, we see all of our
Recurring
players,
characters.
the people,
Yes.
right? But we don't see Mr. Hart. So Mrs. Hart sitting at the table all
Yep.
alone, looking kind of forlorn. But her husband isn't there. So where is Mr. Hart? Is he dead? Gone? Never existed? Like, was he manifested? I don't know. That was kind of interesting. It
Yeah,
might
It's
mean
still-
might mean nothing.
It's also weird that when they were doing like all these characters played by, didn't it seem like they were going all over the globe and they all didn't just live in this place called Westview?
Right. So why are they all there? Were they?
Yeah, they were there
be there
before
for some
Wanda does
reason?
anything.
Yeah,
Hmm?
Wait,
right.
I thought
So there's something up.
I thought that they were all already there. They were part of the town, and she just encompassed the town, and they're learning it. I'm sorry, then I
Okay.
am wrong. Sorry.
It was episode 4, right?
Yeah, they showed everyone's license plates, and they're from all over the globe.
Yeah,
So
when
they
they're
were
doing
all
facial
there
recognition.
for a reason.
Mhm.
Yeah, what was going on? Why were they there? Remember, Westview doesn't exist.
Right.
Why were they
There is no
there?
Westview. There's only an Eastview.
What's going on? There's something happening here, people. It's all run down. Come on.
Yep.
Hmm.
But it is interesting we get little cameos by everybody, like our delivery guy, pizza guy.
Yeah.
It was
I guess
interesting.
I'm
is
watching
it
that scene
Mephisto?
right now,
Darn
making
it.
sure that that I catch everything.
Yeah. Live rewatch.
But we don't see Dottie. We do not see
No, we
Dottie.
definitely don't see Dottie. That continues to be a question mark with her yellow roses.
Yep. Oh, Dottie.
God, you
All
were
right.
right, man. This is a Buick commercial.
Yeah, there's a lot of glistening.
Yeah, just
shots.
the angles on the car. The car is
Maroon
always
car.
center frame.
Yep.
And it's a scarlet car as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is. That was on purpose, obviously.
Yeah.
But who doesn't tint their windows in their car? Come on. I wonder she's insane.
That's like against the law, Prague.
Ugh.
Yeah, depending on your
You
state.
can't tint your front windows.
Whatever.
Anyways, so why did we come all the way out here?
We came out here because she had a deed to the house.
Yeah, so she goes to the very foundation and she just collapses in grief, like, oh my God, I can't take this. And then it all blasts out of her without her even doing anything. Like, she doesn't cast any spells. She doesn't think of any special hexes. All the power just blasts out of her, kind of like blasting out of Agatha at the very start in 1693, just it's in red.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's a good little parallel. And when her brother died in Age of Ultron, she did the same thing.
That
Just not as
force
powerful.
blast.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so
then
she
on the
actually
DQ
recreates Vision from scratch. So we find out as the audience, she didn't steal the body. It's not his dead body that she reanimated. She literally recreated Vision from scratch. Like, Vision's body is still at Sword headquarters, and the Vision walking around in Westview is a completely separate entity.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and
and
it's
it's real.
entirely
It's not like
Mind
it's-
Stone energy. Like, you
Yeah.
see the yellow, it's the one time her powers aren't red. She's literally manifesting that energy from the Mind Stone to create this alternate Vision. And they're tracking his vibranium signal, so he is Vision in
He's
the
there.
hex,
Yeah,
which is
it's
crazy.
Yeah.
It's insane how powerful she is.
Yes. Yes.
Look at Alice's face. What?
Well, and I like the nod of seeing him in the TV too. Like, you see the Mind Stone behind her. You
Yeah, I
see
know,
the
but
Mind
it's just
Stone being that last burst of that yellow energy before we see her seeing him, which is crazy.
So
It's just
did
all
she
crazy.
recreate Mind Stone? Like, it's
I know,
insane.
like, what happened? Can
Just
she
think about
literally manifest both life and this mythical Big Bang energy? Very
Crazy.
cool.
Yeah. Big scene. Sorry, Alex.
Well, and I love the way she creates the house with that those almost puzzle piece block imagery from that alternate cover of House of M with that awesome, just one of the most iconic covers. Like, all of these moments, this whole scene, I had to stop when you saw the energy blast through, I stopped frame by frame to see all the things that changed in Westview when that happened. Like, it's just, the detail in this scene was insane, just insane. So good.
Yeah.
Alex is like, yeah, I saw stuff being created.
Yeah,
There was red flashing on screen.
It was pretty colors. Lots of
red
pretty
wiggly
colors.
moves.
I watched this scene 7 or 8 times because it was just so complex.
Well, I'm not the only one. I'm so glad to have you on, Meg, because I feel like I'm the only one who ever does this.
I'm trying not to out nerd. I'm trying to tame the nerd a little bit in me just because it's so fun. But I love it. I love it.
Don't.
It's so fun to geek out.
Please don't. I don't want to be the only one. Because there's another detail
I have all these questions, but it's really hard for me to. I don't even know where to even start, because you said that she created him using the Mind Stone, which I can understand that. Yes, he was glowing yellow. But then you said they tracked the vibranium to Westview.
They track the vibranium as his signal when we know that Hayward is tracking him. He's literally watching the decomposition of vibranium as the signal. So he is truly vibranium in the hex, which is how?
Exactly.
Right?
And that's my problem is I'm like, well, hold on. This is anyways.
If Wanda can recreate the Mind Stone, vibranium is easy.
Right.
Go, absolutely. 100%.
Cinch.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, all right, fine, here's your skin. It's vibranium.
That's the casing for this magical mythical stone.
At that point, did the Mind Stone leave her body completely, and now she's just working off of her own scarlet magic? Because this is what I was getting when I was watching this, was the Mind Stone left her body completely, and she's working on the scarlet magic that she has, that she's always had in her.
That's a very strong possibility, actually. Good call. That could be. Maybe it's separated from her so they can live together as husband and wife.
Yeah.
Kind of weird.
But
that's very Marvel. That's very comic books right there.
Yeah, it still comes back to that creepy relationship of the Mind Stone just wanting to be whole again.
Yeah.
It really is. It also makes me think that this is a pocket universe too, not just a hex. I think it's almost like another dimension that's sitting on top of our dimension in like a bubble.
Yeah.
You know,
like
like
she
he can
almost
exist.
recalled things. Yeah.
Right.
Like dragged them from another place. Yeah, that's a good point.
She could even get a different dimensional Mind Stone that isn't destroyed.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very weird.
God, this is the nerdiest thing I've ever done.
But wait, there's more. So what I was gonna say was the heart on the deed was Mr. Hart coming to dinner in the first episode. It was always the heart. The heart was on the WandaVision one from the Modern Family episode. It's been in a few places. It was always the heart of the deed. That was crazy. The heart. She couldn't remember.
Yep.
Wait,
he didn't either, because it was the inception of his whole self.
Yep.
Just Alex, he's talking about the note.
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay. Yes. Thank you. Okay.
The deed to the house
said episode 1,
you were rolled in. And then in episode 1 on the calendar, there's a heart. They didn't know if there was their anniversary or what it was. Remember?
Yeah. Now I got it. I'm tracking now, man. Wow. Just talk to me like I'm a 5-year-old, man. This is great.
I am.
Oh, yeah, I know. I noticed, actually. Which is good, because that's what I need.
All right. I thought I had something else. Continue on.
USA Today's wrap of WandaVision. So then we have the transition to the black and white film set, and Agatha's in the stands, and she's the only one there, and she does her little clap, and she realizes that you're able to create spontaneous creation. You have the power to have spontaneous creation. So then we flash back, or we go. So she figures it out. We can go. We're done with the reruns. I understand what you did. I have all ideas. So now I'm just gonna float in the street with the 2 kids held by these purple like ropes for no reason. So if you're Agatha and you literally built a place where Scarlet Witch's powers are inept, you're gonna leave that place and bring her kids out and be like, hey, you can use her magic hand. Why wouldn't you reveal them in the dungeon where she can't do anything? Why is she on the street? Other than the spectacle of it.
I think it's all for this.
Because it looks really cool. The lighting is much better out there.
Or maybe she does want to provoke her, and maybe she wants to provoke her to the point where
I wonder if it's a provoking thing.
And it's like, oh, you killed your own kids or something. Who knows?
She's messing with her and the kids. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. I mean, she's holding them like marionettes, really, as she's choking them. You know, it's very much puppeteering them. I mean, you would think about it like, Tommy could run away easily. He has super speed, but he can't right now. So it's like all this stuff is like, they're not real. This is not real. Sorry.
They're literally somehow locked into this situation. You're right, without any control.
Yes.
And they might as well have changed out Miss Han for Hocus Pocus, because I feel like I was watching that movie all over again.
Oh, and good. It's so good.
It's the wavy cloaks. Like, why do witches have to wear all these wavy cloaks?
So good. Because that was like one of the best costumes. One of the best costumes that have ever been introduced in the MCU ever is that costume. Fantastic. A+. Wow. So whoever was a costume designer this episode, bravo. That was great. Really well done.
Bette Midler. That's the name I was looking for.
Yep,
Good God, I was looking for Bette Midler.
Okay. Looking for Bette Midler coming up next on Disney Plus, starring Alex.
I'd rather watch Bette Midler as a witch.
And so then we have Agatha with her fun declarative statements that don't really mean anything to Wanda at all. Wanda, this is chaos magic. That makes you the Scarlet Witch. Oh my God, this is like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this information. Like, who cares? Like, great. That doesn't mean anything to me. And also, remember everyone, if you've ever read the comics, everyone on Earth tells Doctor Strange, but Wanda uses chaos magic. Now Agatha has just said you use chaos magic. And Doctor Strange says, what are you talking about? There's no such thing as chaos magic. So I can't wait for Doctor Strange 2. This show has made me so excited for Doctor Strange 2.
Yep.
Very nice.
Well, and I like that she calls out you using this like incredible, insane magic to make breakfast for dinner, which is a reflection again back to that first episode. Like it's this whole thing is bookends. Like I love how they set this whole episode up, and it's just hilarious because it is a very funny moment, but it does recall how the inception started and these like hijinks and these silly shenanigans that have now become very real for her as her perceived children, real children, whatever, are at the brink. It's very
you also have to
interesting.
wonder, like, how long was she looking for the Scarlet Witch? She says it was a myth. She probably read about it at some point and was probably hoping that she would become one herself and never did. She never even got the crown from her mother. So she's been doing a lot to find this person. And maybe she thought at some point that she didn't even exist, and then came upon this situation where all this magic was happening. I was like, I bet that's it. Here you are.
And I wonder if that's why she's not surrounded by the runes now, is because she has to pull that out of Wanda to get the crown to appear, to get her to manifest the power in order to take it, or in order to inhabit it somehow.
Exactly. And what about that orange magic?
Yeah, the big question is, what's Agatha's endgame?
What's her endgame? We don't know. There's so much. I mean, I feel like at this point almost anything's up
Senor
for grabs.
Scratchy, that's her endgame.
They've given us everything. They've literally given us like every kind of hint to every possible scenario. So it's like, all right. So I don't know what's gonna happen at this point. Honestly, I don't even think I can speculate.
I know there's too many. There are too many possibilities.
Money's still on Mephisto. I still think that's the way it's going to be. I think that's who gave her power in the beginning that made her so powerful. She was dabbling in the dark arts, and that those two boys are going to become his hand puppets and part of his soul that he needed. Because if you noticed, she actually wiped away a tear during one of the scenes, and she could have easily done that in front of Wanda, but she did it behind Wanda. She was like, she was actually getting emotional. She wants to bring somebody back from the dead.
Yeah. Well, and that's a moment we saw her break character, like in the scene where Sparky dies. She's like, she truly looks shocked. You can do that? Like, you can bring... It was both, I think, cueing her, but also, like, a pure shock that is actually something she can do, because she spent years learning these simple spells. And to be able to, like, bring someone back from the dead that's not just necromancy, that's not just a show, is something she's never seen. Crazy.
Yep. So I'm thinking that's what's going to happen.
Gnarly.
There you have it.
There's really never been a show like this. It's just amazing to unpack every week. Thank goodness they did not release these all at once. It's just so much more fun.
Well, and that's
so much more fun.
I guess we could say thank God too, because we wouldn't have a show right now.
That too, I guess. Yeah. And this has been fun.
So, Meg,
and then we have a singer, right?
There was a bonus scene. So this is 2 weeks in a row with a bonus scene. Important. And so now we go back to Hayward, and we have their little base or whatever, and we're ready for launch. And what's ready for launch? And it's Vision, and he's all white Vision. And if you're a comic fan, Marvel West Coast Avengers number 44, he's brought back as all white Vision for no apparent reason in the comics other than they wanted to change his costume design. And now they decided to do on the show, so now they can make new merchandise. Vision, it's such a classic callback to making new
merchandising.
We already got a pop for it today, which is amazing.
Exactly.
Well, and it's interesting. You see, like, the arc reactor style of his where the Mind Stone would be. Like, there's clear hints to, Stark technology, or at least Stark design in this, even if it's not Tony Stark's direct influence. I think the costume looks amazing. I think they did a great job. He clearly is devoid of any sort of heart or emotion that you can always read on traditional Vision's face and every move that he makes.
He doesn't have human eyes. He has robotic eyes. Not like, Paul Bettany's eyes behind a mask or something. So that was telling as well. And they did mention Ultron a lot, so they're probably going to tap into that somehow.
And then this goes back to what we talked about last week of, in that run where he becomes White Vision in the comics, he doesn't remember the emotional connection to Wanda. Like, Hank Pym puts in all his, here's our battle information, and here's all the things, here's all the events we've gone through, but he can't reestablish the waveforms to create what Vision's personality was. And so Wanda and Vision separate. He calls her over the phone to break up with her or get divorced or whatever. So this is the whole, she has the recreated Vision inside the Hex, but then there's this other Vision, and that's so intriguing of what they're going to do with two Visions now. Because first I thought that
it'll be VVV.
Yeah.
Vision versus Vision.
V next week on WandaVision.
It really was a big deal to see Wanda recreate Vision from scratch rather than just getting his dead body and reanimating it.
Yeah.
That's gigantic for everything.
Yes.
Really is. That's really telling for a lot of things.
So, I mean, I know you guys know that I still haven't seen that movie. Which one?
Yes.
The one? Yeah. Okay.
Who cares?
So does Wanda still have does she have any kind of hate towards Tony Stark or Stark Industries?
No.
She's Team Cap.
She's Team Cap. That's true.
I mean, the only reason why I asked this is, I mean, yeah, in this episode alone, we lived through her family being blown up by Stark Industries type of stuff, and now her lover or her husband is now got Stark Industries equipment in his forehead.
Yeah.
So I don't know is that going to make her not. Yeah. How is she going to feel towards Vision when she sees him as White Vision?
Well, she's not going to like it. That's for sure. Yeah, I don't think she's going to like it one bit. I don't know what they're going to do with this whole thing. Are they going to merge the two together? Possibly. Because what you can do there is have like her version of Vision without the memories, but still his personality melded with this new robot.
Or could Hayward?
I don't know.
Hayward could have made this new Vision in hopes that she could kind of make him into more of a sentient rather than just a robot.
Sure. I don't know.
But no, they always prefer Vision as a pure robot. Like,
because
the governments have always preferred him without personality.
Yeah.
He's not controlled by himself.
He's just a weapon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Hayward probably sees him as his perfect weapon right now because
but I don't think
the power without the personality.
Yeah, Power Arc Vision's never going to compete with Mind Stone Vision though, just from a power source.
Well, that's
ideal.
That's where my question arises, is more on the lines of, is he wanting to try and merge the Mind Stone Vision with White Vision? Because if that happens, then you've got Supervision.
I always have supervision.
You got like 50-20 vision.
Yes. I don't know.
I don't know. These are just the questions that I have as the everyday.
There are so many questions. I cannot wait to see what happens.
Like,
I just
seriously,
want to
we didn't see
Monica, Darcy.
Yeah, we didn't see Monica or Pietro or Vision, the Vision inside the Hex in that whole episode. Like,
or Darcy.
Like,
I miss Darcy.
literally, Agatha went outside.
Or Jimmy.
Is Monica knocked out on the grass next to her where she's at in the street?
Yeah, probably.
Right. And Vision, where was he at?
He's been floating really slow.
He's been floating real slow.
He's taking his due diligence. He's just like.
Oh, look, a butterfly. That's really nice.
Like a wrong turn at Albuquerque.
Yep. Timing might
so,
stuff.
Do we have predictions for the next episode?
Oh, I like season finale predictions. Well, I like Prog's prediction that there's actually an episode 10
prediction.
just to mess with people.
Yeah. I do too. I
like
amazing.
That too. Well, everyone was wondering about that because there were like only 2 episodes left today. Like, what, we're releasing today 2 episodes left, and they're like, is that this one and the next one, or is that the next one and the next one after that? That'd be amazing.
Disney.
Yeah. Or if they just gave us an end credit scene that was another 30 minutes, that'd be great. I'd take that
perfect. Too. Now end credit scene. Oh my gosh, fantastic. No, my prediction's still the Mephisto one, and then somehow she's gonna snap and go crazy because she did that and took her kids away, and then there's the multiverse for you. It ends. That's my guess.
That's the most likely outcome. I would love to see an Incredible style family gathering of awesomeness at some point to see them all manifest their powers together. We got the Incredibles highlight in the movie.
That's gonna happen.
Yeah, but I can't wait to see what they do with Monica here. I hope in some way Darcy plays some part in the finale too, because I freaking love her and I want to see her in every episode.
Okay. Darcy, real quick. Darcy, last week I mentioned there was something wrong with the circus episode or the circus bits and why I didn't like Darcy so much there. And I think I told Prague this, but I just need a little to be clear. I like Darcy. I do. Because I actually had someone write me who said, how do you not like this character? And I'm like, it's not that I don't like that character. I do like that character. What I didn't like is when she went into the Hex, she was essentially the same character, just saying different words. She, rather than being like the clowns who all of a sudden now they're running around being clowns and making clown noises, and they have turned from army men to clowns. They're not, you know what I mean? She's just the same person. She never changed in any way, shape, or form. She's just the same person. And then he touches her head. Anyways, I just wanted that to be clear. I do like Darcy too.
See, I think there was some sense. I think there's a weird subconscious to the Hex that recognizes if people are friend or foe, or truly invested in these characters or not. And that's how I took her character. There's a sense by the Hex, by this energy, that she is not a foe. So folks who are in the military, sword garb, like they are truly there to prevent Wanda's vision from coming true. Vision.
But that's hard. That's hard to say because look at Rhodes. Rhodes' whole thing is to help.
Rambo.
She means Rambo.
Rambo. Why do I keep saying Rhodes? Yep.
No idea who Rhodes is. But
James Rhodes. He's Iron Patriot.
Rhodey. Love Rhodey.
Okay, I'm sorry.
But I see, and
that's a
I
weird
see
leap.
There
okay.
Because there was no sense,
Starts with an R.
Because Monica didn't know when I know we don't have to get into this too much, but Monica didn't know anything about the Hex and had no preconceived notion about it when she went in the first time. So she just became another character. When she goes in and has already been altered, but she has this backstory of understanding Wanda and Vision and who they are and having seen the show, when she goes in, she remains unchanged other than she's now superpowered. Like she is able to break through that. So I think Darcy, having the knowledge of what this space is, what it's meant to be, her kind of tie into understanding Wanda and Vision's love story and buying into it, I think subconsciously the Hex is like, you're not an enemy. I'm not going to make you a farcical version of yourself. You're going to just be yourself in like Modern Family. Like she's very Modern Family. There's a lot of sarcasm.
Right.
And that she's like kind of a Modern Family character already as Darcy. So my sense was that because the Hex had this sense that she understood Vision and Wanda's love, that they were willing to keep her as a non-farcical character. Does that make sense?
No,
that's
how
makes
sense.
I perceive it.
Maybe I need to be
know.
more open-minded.
And it could all be wrong. There could be some totally different twist that none of us see coming.
Have fun with the show, Alex. That's the whole point. Have fun with it.
I'm trying to. That's the most fun that I'm having with this show is coming on here and talking to you guys.
Nice. Well, nice.
That's fair.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it does make this show more interesting because I know Prague can hope for the wildest dreams imaginable and like have wet dreams of comics coming to life, but that's not what this show is going to do. I'm almost certain of that, and I'm really intrigued to what lesser version they're going to do of that.
And I'd be fine with that too. I've had so much fun. That's all that matters. That's what I wanted from this, and they delivered like what I like from the comics. So it's like, give me X-Men, don't give me X-Men. I don't care.
I kind of want episode 9 to just end with a cliffhanger. I want it to be like, did she just create a multiverse? Did this happen? Did they just introduce this bad guy? I don't need it to be knocking me over the head with, okay, we wrapped everything up in a neat little bow, or this is specifically leading, oh, look, here's Doctor Strange. He's in the end credit scene. I don't need to be that obvious and held by the hand of what's in the future. I want it to completely be like an enigma where people talk about it afterwards.
Yep. It just depends on if they're buying into the sitcom trope of everything ends okay. And still leaves some things unanswered, but the core story ends okay or not. That's what I'll be interested to see.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see that. Or if they get waken up by nightmare.
Entirely possible.
Oh boy.
You have to say Mephisto Nightmare at least once an episode. I think it's a contractual obligation.
I think it is, because this happens.
Mephisto.
And Mephisto as well.
Old scratch.
So I suppose we should wrap this up. Meg, why don't you tell people about your social and stuff like that?
What's up, my socials? I'm Mountain Meg 13 in a couple of different places, so that's where you can find me on Instagram, which is one of the places I'm most active. I'm Meg Stalker on Twitter because I made my thing like 15 years ago, and apparently I was not very original back when the internet was like newly social. Yeah, that's me. I love doing unboxings, unballings, unenvelopings, unpowderings. I have a lot of fun just playing around with short videos, 2-minute and 20-second videos on Twitter, and lots of fun Funko photography on Instagram. So I love it.
Lots of great photography.
Hey, make it 3 minutes on Facebook and you can start making some money.
It's one of those things everyone's like, here until you get more viewers and stuff. And I'm like, I just do this purely for the fun. I'm fine monetarily. I just really enjoy supporting amazing artists, supporting fantastic people who are doing their thing on streams, on podcasts. I just love being a part of the community and making sure people hear about awesomeness that's going on, like you guys.
Nice.
Awesome.
Well, thank you for coming on.
That was so nice.
Aww.
And so, yeah, Meg, thanks for joining us. You offered a lot about WandaVision, and I hope everyone is super excited for episode 9, Thursday, 12:01, or I guess it's Friday at 12:01 in the morning.
Wait.
Don't get spoiled, because spoilers are going to be posted at 12:02.
Pretty much.
Because people are just going to open it and scroll right to the end and watch what happens.
Yes, they will.
So just
that's something my mom would do. Yeah.
Wait, do people really do that?
Yes, my mom did that with Harry Potter. She went to the back of the book. She's like, okay, I know who died. I'm like, why?
What? It is going to the back of the book, just in streaming form.
Yeah, there's people out there.
I did do that with Alf one time. I watched the first episode of Alf, and then I watched the very last episode of Alf, and I was like, really? That's how they ended it? Anyways.
So be sure to follow at Secondary Heroes wherever you can, so you can stay tuned for our future updates.
And
to everyone
giveaways.
listening, we hope you enjoyed, and we'll talk to you next time.
Prog out.
Bye, y'all.
On your left.